The audio isn't sounding like it's connected.
Would you like me to make noise and see if you can hear? Would you be able to hear it?
We'd have to have somebody call in. It's coming directly in through the device.
Didn't hit it.
Oh. Hi, Ed. Could you unmute for just a second? Oh, thank you.
Hello, everybody. I apologize for not being there in person. Hopefully you can hear me. And yeah, I'm in my car going from one work thing to another thing. So I appreciate being able to remote in. Can you hear me okay?
Keep talking.
Hello, hello, hello.
There you go.
There you go.
Thank you.
Apologies for being remote. It's a long story.
Yeah, but at 6 o'clock, I think we have a quorum.
We have 7, so technically we have a quorum.
I think we should just start.
Um, We have a
So-
quorum.
Now, 6 o'clock, so we'll call the meeting to order. We will take just a minute or two to think about what we're doing tonight. Thank you. You want to do a roll call?
Yes. Mayor Sean Reardon. City Council President Ed Cameron. Ed,
He's muted. Oh, I think I muted.
Still can't, you're still muted, Ed. You're still muted.
I'm present.
okay, thank you. James Conley,
Here?
Karen Cullinan,
Here.
Kristen Donahue,
Here.
Gary Gorski,
Here.
Christian Hansen,
Here.
Sarah Holden,
Here.
Caroline McCarthy,
Here.
Stephen Moore, Sarah Spalding, Madeline Whitten.
Should we move to the public comment, please?
Yes.
Any introduction you want to do, we'll just go to public comments.
This is a reminder that public comment is based on the agenda and its comment is for 2 minutes per person.
Should we start? Anyone would like to comment before the meeting starts? Online, anybody want to start? No? In that case, perhaps we can move to the approval of the previous meeting minutes. Everyone had a chance to review those.
Yes, and Gary presented his edits and I've made those corrections.
Can I have a motion to accept those then? Approve those?
Kristen
Good.
and Karen.
Everybody in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay, that's done.
Actually, we do have to do roll call because Ed is,
Oh.
sorry, I just remembered that. So it'll have to be a roll call vote for the approval of the minutes. Let's see, and see, City Council President Ed Cameron,
Yes.
James Conley,
Yes.
Karen Cullinan.
Yeah.
Kristen Donahue.
Yes.
Gary Gorski,
Yes.
Christian Hansen,
Stay home, it's not here.
Sarah Holden,
Also abstain.
Caroline McCarthy.
Yes.
Okay, the next meeting date tentatively is June 18th. We have a question about that?
Yes, June 18th is also the date of city council public hearing on the budget. I know I am required to be there, and I know the mayor and Ed Cameron will be present there. So my recommendation is either, well, we have two choices. We can cancel or we can reschedule. We could potentially reschedule for the following week, which would be the 25th. Just confirm that, sorry.
Mhm.
Is it the 25th?
Yes.
Okay,
Sorry, I was
Uh,
closing something else up.
so
Does anybody in the board have any thoughts?
I know meetings in July or August, is that correct?
correct.
Do you think it probably makes sense to have one in June?
I do.
Yeah.
That's all. So is it only 1 week out, or could go any day of the week that it's available?
It's up, I guess it's up to you.
Is 19th a holiday?
The 19th
Yes.
is a holiday, yes.
We're close.
Chair, if I could just say, yeah, the 18th, yeah, would be challenging, especially without the head librarian and myself and Mayor Reardon. Wednesdays in the summer are tough for me. I'm wondering if you don't have everyone there, if we could, within the next couple of days, poll people and find another time in that time span. That way we could maximize attendance. I mean, the moving it to the next Wednesday may work for most people. I'd likely be remote, which is fine, but anyway, just throwing that out.
Are there other dates that week? It's like the 17th of already taken out on Tuesday? Day before?
I need to log in. Do you mind if we maybe do this? Do you want to do this right now?
Well, why don't I send out an email to everyone and list potential dates, in case there might be something scheduled in the room. Just want to make sure that we're not, double booking ourselves. So I'll essentially, I'll just put a list of all the potential dates for the week, that week and the week afterwards. And then, people can just indicate what would be best for them.
We'll take a poll.
Yep.
Then the next on old business, a few people have requested that we talk about a little bit of investigation into the library. Well, I think this one mentioned in it. To start with my thoughts, this all happened, of course, no one came to the board and said we're being bullied. So the first time we mostly heard about it was when this letter was published. I and some other people tried to investigate what happened. We got a letter from the city attorney telling us that mayor and city council, the trustees of the public library, and have power of general supervision. And that the authority to report library board of directors and personnel is limited to appointment and supervision of the director only. And the authority of the library personnel is with the director, not us. So literally we couldn't do anything about it. And you know, she also added, there's nothing in the ordinance provides authority for board direction over any other library employees except for the director. So I think that somewhat limited our ability to do things. I mention that because people keep saying, why don't you guys do something? And the answer is legally, the city attorney says we can't do something. One thing we might have been able to do potentially is, I asked the human resources director when she was here, why we couldn't just, as a member of the Newburyport city, we want someone who's knowledgeable about the history of the city and willing to volunteer their time. Why can't they be here? We could ask them questions. And she said, because of the contract the city negotiated with the union years ago, that wasn't possible. I assume it's probably correct, I don't know. But anyway, that would be a question again for the mayor. We're not really involved in that. Once the union and the mayor take over the situation, there's not much we can do. That's my perception of it. I don't think anyone has any other thoughts on it or questions about it. I know we just got email from Ed today around 5 o'clock. Copy of something I think is in the paper, which is a more complete report by the city. And actually, I should mention that she does mention in the report that originally she was looking into misleading and false statements fostered by different people, one of them being the library board. And obviously, I wasn't contacted, I think nobody else probably was either by the Melissa Murray was doing an investigation. But at the end anyway, she finds that the lack of action by the mayor's former chief of staff, the human relations director, resource director, created the maelstrom that's plagued the library staff and volunteers. So we weren't mentioned in that at all. So which I think is consistent with us being told we can't do anything about it anyway. But I just throw that out there because I know people, I get emails from Twitter saying, why don't you do something? Why you guys have no spine? And the answer is we really aren't allowed to do it, according to city legal counsel. So that's my perspective on it. I don't know if anyone else has anything thoughts on it.
Just a few follow on with a few points that the first time we heard about the word bullying was used was when Sarah told us she was going to resign. So we didn't hear about it at that point, but we didn't hear about it anything more after that. Or any more detail, I should say. So, and then if anyone on the board was questioned, then, I mean, are we allowed to even say that? I was not, but was anyone on the board questioned?
Would Ed be able to answer that question? I'm not sure.
Yeah, let me say a couple of things. So yes, the beginning of this issue preceded my involvement with the library board of directors. I was not president of the city council at that time. I became chair in January 2024, a choice I have regretted several times in the intervening time. And a specific communication was sent to the city council in April of 2024. And that was Glee Woodworth and some others, including library, past library volunteers, and asking the council to investigate, look into what had happened. We did after I think a lot of public discussion and also an executive session. The city council. Because I was wearing that hat as opposed to the library board of directors hat. City council did choose to pay for set up an investigation. That was attorney Melissa Murray. We appropriated $12,000 to do that. She did interview a number of people, and there were no board of directors interviewed, but there were other library staff, officials, and people that were involved in this, including volunteers. That's said in the executive summary that I shared. But again, I'm not going to say who was and who wasn't. So we did, when the report came out, we did have 2 executive sessions about it. We released what you've seen through email, and that is posted in that event when the city council met in executive session, because we did vote to release that executive session. We had legal representation as well as on the city's behalf, the city solicitor's office, as well as the investigating attorney, Melissa Murray. So, what it does say is that, yeah, there were 3 questions that the attorney looked at, and she did find, and again, I'm going to be careful with the language because I don't want to. One thing I've learned is be very careful what comes out of one's mouth or what you email or what you put in the newspaper. That she did find that Newburyport Archive volunteers and patrons have been unfairly dismissed and defamed in public. She found that substantiated. Another question was the former senior librarian and archivist, who would be Sharon Spildiner, had she been defamed, et cetera. And the attorney did not address that as part of her investigation. That's being addressed in another forum. And the third question was whether library staff and librarians have been subject to repeated, persistent, consistent negative, et cetera, commentary. And she did not find that that substantiated, although she acknowledged that librarians and staff feel frustrated, hurt, and exhausted because of the situation, and those feelings are justified. So that, is sort of, what the investigators' conclusions were. Again, the council did approve, accepted the report, and we issued that executive summary. I think where it leaves us is in a place where, I can only speak for myself, and I'm going to be much more careful than I normally would be, because I also work with 10 other city councilors who may have different perspectives on this. We did not release any recommendations. We do feel that, the mayor as the executive, and the library head librarian, I feel should, take steps to see what we can do to, one, acknowledge what people are feeling, and that, again, the volunteer and patrons was substantiated by the attorney. The staff, it was acknowledged but not substantiated. You just find a way to move on. One of the things I did give the investigating attorney was a PDF, and this is all public record because it was in the Daily News. I'm happy to share it if anyone wants to ping me on email. A very large combined PDF that took me a long time of, going through the Daily News archives. If you're a subscriber, you can find them pretty easily. And lots of letters to the editor, lots of reporting with quotes from people, a few op-eds. And, it really was, lots of things were said that could be harmful to other people. I'll just leave it at that. But I think where we need to be is, again, finding a way to acknowledge, people's feelings across the board without making it worse. Find ways to, improve and continue good service to library patrons and residents, make staff feel supported. I know the volunteer program has evolved, and if there's further evolution, then maybe we can tap into people's expertise as subject matter experts in some way, shape, or form. I think there's certainly work to be done around feelings and sort of moving forward. So that's sort of where it is. I know the mayor, had given a statement to the newspaper, and certainly there's work to be done. But I think that's sort of where it is right now. And again, I don't know if that's helpful to people. Again, we chose not to, on legal advice, not to release the full report because there, as we were told, there are personnel matters involved. Sometimes that's staff, and sometimes that's regular citizens, and people do have, the attorney said, people do have rights to privacy, whether they're municipal employees or not, and that we chose to release what we did. So that's a bit of a ramble, but that's sort of my take on it.
Thank you. Does anyone have any other questions or comments while we're on the subject?
I do, Ed. You mentioned, we, in terms of coming up with a strategy to address the concerns of the patrons who feel like they've been damaged or harmed, and then the staff as well. Who is the we, and what is our role in that as a board? Is the mayor's office leading this?
Great question, Gary. Yeah, I mean, I'm speaking from the collective we, and again, I don't know if that's, one-on-one conversations between either the mayor, and people who've been involved with, or Kevin, or if the board, I do understand, maybe not so well as the rest of you, that, the board of directors role is really hiring the head librarian, and while we do get into, policy and procedure and statistics and sort of general strategic things, I think the part of the role of the board of directors is to listen to people, which we do in a variety of ways. I'm sure, sometimes there's public comment here. I know Kevin is frequently talking to people, but So I don't know. I think, I think it would be good to reassure the public that the library is offering solid services, and where there are disagreements about that, again, there are forums where that can get communicated. Sometimes it's one-on-one. So I think somewhere in there, I mean, something I've wondered is, are there any resources from the state? And I know the whole library field is feeling somewhat under siege with various federal cutbacks and lack of support. But some supports from the state around engaging the public, board training, best practices that other library boards conduct. That way, we I think our role as board of directors is certainly supporting and guiding the head librarian, and it's also supporting staff and making sure that patrons and residents' voices and thoughts are being, included and incorporated in any actions that the library takes.
I think that, I think you're right, Ed, in that we do serve as a voice for some of the public, for the public, I should say. And as part of that, like, we're also not at a point where we're overseeing personnel or making personnel decisions. To your point, we're doing policy and kind of guiding strategically. But at what point, and who is it that kind of says, okay, let's acknowledge the wrongs that have been done both on to the staff, to volunteers, to the public writ large. And I don't know if that's us. I don't think that, I don't know who it is, but it is somebody that needs to stand up and say, we acknowledge that everybody involved in this was hurt in some way. And so how do we move forward with this? And I think that that not happening and that not happening for so long has left things fester and fester. And this investigation has kind of come to conclusions, but now what? So now what? Now there's still hurt feelings, there's still apprehension, there's still concern, and we're not in any better spot, in my opinion, than we were before. We just have it now kind of written out. But how to resolve hurt feelings and move beyond so that people can be included where they can. So however we get there, I don't know. I feel like as a board member, we need to put whatever weight we can behind it, knowing full well that we don't have any impact on personnel. But my vote as a board member is to say, whatever effort we need to, let us please get there, and get there with a genuine effort, and so that we can all get to the next phase of it.
Christian, are you able to provide some perspective from the mayor's office on this?
So yes, I can, so I know just a while ago, the mayor sent his full quote, to the paper, so I would just look at that. So I think that's sort of to the other Christian's point. After the report, I think we're still in this middle ground of, like, the mayor says in his quotes of, that was one of the worries of this investigation, is there still be no, resolution, and we're still in that. I'll just repeat sort of what, if it's okay, I can just read to the record what he sent for the email. So his full, this was the day he split up, I'll just give the full statement. The situation with the library occurred early in my term as mayor. It's still one of the most difficult challenges I have faced. At the time, I said there would be no winners, and that remains true 2 years later. We still have former volunteers who will feel that they were treated unfairly, and library staff who feel they are subjugated to inappropriate behavior. Nothing in the report changes those deeply held feelings. I disagree with the training MERS main conclusions. The review does not include the important insights from the former head librarian who chose not to be used. I was opposed to spending $12,000 in the report, as I did not think it would bridge the divide between the two groups or promote healing. I want to be clear. The library staff had the right to report and express concerns about the alleged poor behavior by patrons and volunteers. And the mayor's office has an obligation to investigate and present the same. However, the use of a city asset to air those grievances was inappropriate, and upon learning of his posting, I immediately had it removed. As the mayor of the city, I am ultimately responsible for the city's actions, and I apologize for the posting of those complaints. The library dispute involved important and competing duties of the city, including an obligation to ensure a safe and supportive work environment, not to mention to comply with contractual conditions of collective bargaining, and our duty to serve and support the residents of the city, especially those who are willing to volunteer. Having held several volunteer positions over the years, I know how unappreciated it can feel. When this first happened, I met with both employees and volunteers on the issue to find a resolution and express my appreciation for the roles they play in our making a library. Appreciate the roles they play in making our library such a wonderful asset to the city. And I promise to continue to do so in order to get closer to this issue. My administration remains committed to prioritizing the city's residents while fostering a positive, respectful, and supportive work environment for all city employees.
Does anyone else have anything they'd like to add, questions, suggestions?
Well, I mean, given what Christian said, is there any reason why we can't make a statement as a board? I mean, pretty much what you said, I think we could vote on. We empathize with everyone that was hurt in this situation. How do you want to word it? Is there any reason why we can't do that?
Should we work on drafting something and then maybe bring that forward next meeting?
Sounds like a good idea.
Yeah, my only thought about it would be that we really don't know what happened. So I think it's fine to say something general, we apologize, so I still don't. Yeah,
I don't think we need to know what happened to acknowledge what happened, right? Like, I don't think we need to know the specifics of things to understand the fallout.
well, it's good follow-up, but I mean, I don't know what that's based upon. So, I mean, I have no issue with the statement, I'd like it a little more, and that's fine, a general statement's fine. But I'm just concerned that we still don't know what happened. Whose fault was it? Both parties, one party? I don't know. I don't know. Think about it. That's. So we can't find out. So that's my only concern. That somebody knows. So they did an investigation, but I don't know who else. Except the conclusion that some people. The administration didn't do what they should have done. But I don't know if I could just accept that as being accurate without independent knowledge of what happened. So. I mean, none of us were contacted by this person who's written this report, and then, so. I don't know if I just feel comfortable just taking this report at face value, knowing what it's based on. They tell us they can't tell us what it's based on. I think it makes sense to apologize. We just did something wrong. We were somewhat ignorant of it, that they bragged on that.
You're not saying that word.
Hold a second. I think Ed wants to say something.
Go ahead.
Yeah, hi. Yeah, just if there were to be a statement from the library board of directors, which I think is a good idea. Again, acknowledging what Jim just said, that the board of directors involvement in this is limited because the board of directors does not deal with personnel matters. You know, if such a statement was to be created, I believe that the entity of the board of directors, whatever our total membership is, I don't believe we have any subcommittees. So where I'm going is, I think you know, a small group could meet. I think and you know, we could probably check, we should check, because this would not be a good mistake to make. Without violating open meeting law, I think 2 or 3 people could get together and draft something. And there, you know, rather than, you know, all members bringing their ideas, or we could appoint one person to, you know, try to incorporate some of the thinking and bring back a statement. But I think just in terms of efficiency standpoint, you know, just having a solid draft to look at the next meeting would I think that would be good. And again, acknowledging the role of the library board of directors within that statement. But you know, clearly there's there were bad feelings, there probably still are bad feelings. And I think the library board of directors needs to be a part of,
and-
moving it forward. Yeah.
And unfortunately, according to the Attorney General, any working group, doesn't matter how many, has to be an open meeting law if the result of that working group is meant to be brought to the full board.
That sounds very definitive.
Unfortunately, we chat, believe me.
I work in a city council environment, so we can't meet at all. So yeah, okay, that makes
Yeah.
sense. So I don't know if somebody would want to take, a crack at it, and bring it, or everyone just bring their ideas and wordsmith it out that next night, which could be time consuming, but
Put together a text with a sample draft months ago for this. I could share it out. I'm not sure what the protocol would be, or I could bring it to the board next meeting. I'm not sure what the judge would.
And again, like, I wanna, sorry, before we
Yeah.
just get off there. So I don't think that we need to know, right, the context. I just wanna reiterate it in order to acknowledge that there's is hurt feelings, right? And that people need to have that recognized, because I don't feel like there's been any recognition on both sides of the point here. So I hear what you're saying, Jim, without like, I don't think we need to say, well, they did it wrong, they did it wrong. I don't think this needs to be part of that. It needs to be just recognition and understanding that.
So you think it's a violation of law for someone like Christian to draft an agreement and send it out? People look at?
Yeah, unfortunately, if there's any sort of deliberation that occurs between board members, it can't.
Well, it wouldn't be a deliberation, Don. We're just sending out his
So
thoughts
it's a draft.
and we're not deliberating, just looking at it.
If there is no communication between board members regarding opinion of what is sent.
But something could be submitted to you in advance of the next meeting.
then we'll bring
to
our
be added
opinion.
to the agenda and then discussed at the next board.
Yes,
meeting.
if people want to if Gary sends something out, I can't hear opinion. I can say, this is.
That's what I sent directly to you to be
Yes.
added to the agenda.
Kristen, yes.
So my understanding is if someone sends something and it's on the agenda, then everyone will just either bring their opinions or their comments to the meeting. So the point of the open meeting law is to prevent pretty much you guys going back and forth on Word or Google Docs,
Yeah.
comments. That's sort of the spirit of
Right.
my understanding of it. So someone can send it out on your own for your comments in, but know that those should be shared in the open, in this type of space.
Like we do with policies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right, draft is sent out and then discuss it.
Yes.
Yes, and in that email, whoever sent it, it should say, something along the lines of, for your information to be discussed at the next meeting, and not for email deliberation,
Yeah.
just as a reminder, so people do. And when I do these on the council, I tend to BCC the full council, so nobody's tempted to hit like reply all and get something started. So, but yeah, as long as it's posted on the agenda, that could be sent out in advance, yes.
Send something to you and obviously see the rest of the board.
Yeah. Sounds like a good idea. Okay.
Okay.
I just wanted to say one more thing, that in relation to what you had said, that as a board, we were frustrated that we couldn't do anything more positive to get the volunteers more involved. After the volunteers were dismissed, we really wanted to figure out a way to have more than just shelving be offered to the volunteers. And I think you brought up, Christian had a ton of ideas, you had a bunch of ideas. And it was very frustrating for us that the union came back and basically said, we're making one exception, but people are allowed to shelve. Like that wasn't even going to be a given because it's on the job descriptions. correct? So I just want that to be out there that, you know, as a board, we really would like there to be more involvement with volunteers, but feel like we're up against brick wall.
Why something concur? I think we're gonna send volunteers too. I don't know how much pushback the city. If you look at some, I mean, unions in Massachusetts have a lot of. Our unions and polls them and anything, so. But for what it's worth, I think it will be helpful in there's, they know what they're talking about. Water. So. Anyway, you guys will progress something and send it out and take it up at the next board meeting. I think so, so.
I mean, we could each submit something, right? It doesn't have to be one person. But if anybody else wants to draft, I have something that I put together that I think seems reasonable, but if others have something, they could share that as well, and have a bigger discussion.
If you send it to me and then I can send it,
Wow.
no files, please.
Okay, so like I said. That will happen, and then new business, Kevin?
Yes, the first item, is we have the final drafts for the mission statement project. As I mentioned, there are, well, it looks like there are actually 5 different options you could vote on, including as was requested, that the board still have the ability to say, yes, I'd like the current statement. But so this was sent out to you. I guess, all I can say is this was a result of a lot of work on both your part and the staff kind of feedback group. Now, what I might suggest is, I will go through each statement. And we can either do this in a double elimination. Or we just say, just do a straight out. And then whichever one gets the most votes is the one that you choose.
Maybe we're all gonna vote for the same one.
That's true, we don't know. So I kind of would like you, how you'd like to, would you like to do 2 rounds where I go through each one and the top 2, they get the most votes. We then do a final vote on those, and then choose from the top 2.
Okay.
That sound reasonable? Was there one? Okay, and just so you know, Ed has left meeting. Okay, all right, so, we don't need to do a roll call vote because Ed has left the meeting. Okay, so I'm just going to ask for a raise of hands for the current mission statement. So no one has selected the current mission statement. Mission statement number 2, or recommended mission statement number 2. I'm sorry. Recommended, okay, option, yeah, on the left, number 1 was the current. Now, whatever is number 2.
Number 2. Oh,
One vote, okay. All right.
Each only vote once.
Each only vote once,
Okay.
okay,
In this room.
in this round. Yes, in this round. Number.
Twice.
Number 3. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And number 4. There are only 7 of us, so. Number 4. 0. And number 5.
Okay.
Okay, all right.
We're only gonna get to
So
six.
I guess, okay, all right, since there were 5 votes for number 3 and there were only 1 vote for number 2, and none of the others were selected. I needed like an official, is this the one that we want? And if so, I'd like, Someone
Maybe
to
we
make
could
a
have a
motion.
round of discussion and then a
Yes,
vote to see if we could reach
exactly.
a unanimous conclusion.
Oh, very nice.
I like that idea.
Yeah.
So those who did not like number 3, why did you not like it?
Yeah.
Okay.
Pressure on you.
Well, I just feel like it's a little more direct. I understand wanting to recognize that what the library offers are materials and resources and spaces. However, I like the number 2 because it's less wordy,
Okay.
easier to digest. It basically says. Does anyone want to sway me on?
Talk you out of it?
Yes.
You sound pretty certain. I just think if you were to use this mission statement as a way to assist you making this policy decisions, it's helpful to have, like, what are we doing here? Materials, resources, and space. And the number, what I'm gonna call number 2, could be a lot of different kinds of community centered places, all of which would be wonderful, but which would not acknowledge the particular thing that we spend a lot of money and effort on, which is the materials and resources. That's why I like 3.
Because number 2 could be like the senior center. I mean, I think the extra words add detail that's valuable and helpful. Underscore specifically what we do here at the library, what we want the library to be.
Did you sway you?
If it's important to be a unanimous, then yes. It's right.
Okay.
So I guess, can we make a motion?
So moved.
Second,
Second.
all in favor?
Aye.
No opposed? Unanimous.
Hey,
Beautiful.
Unanimous. Okay, all right. Well, I guess we'll now move on to new business number 2. The Daughters of the American Revolution, Old Newbury chapter, excuse me, Brigadier General James Brickett, Old Newbury chapter, approached James Russell because they believed that it would be a great, what we have downstairs, we have the original charter of the DAR, the Old Newbury chapter, in the archives. And members of the Old Newbury chapter thought it would be again another illustration of how Newburyport residents were involved in the road to revolution. So they approached James Russell, and James Russell has officially requested that that the library lend the charter for the exhibit for essentially the same amount of time that we will that the Nathaniel Tracy portrait will be on display. In my conversations with Mr. Russell, as well as in his letter, he indicates that although the charter has great historical and intrinsic value, it does not have great numerical value. So it would fall under the general insurance policy that the museum has for the items on display. So he did not recommend getting a, doing what we did for the portrait for this. But we, in order for the library to allow, the Customs House Maritime Museum to borrow, we need board approval, like we did with the portrait.
Can you remember the timeline is for this request?
It was a seven-month loan with the possibility of extension. And it was, beginning of June through, the end of January 2026.
And does this put, like a note in the catalog or something that would say this item is available at this location? Like, can you re-steer people?
We would, I would have to talk to the head of technical services. I think we could put a note that,
It just seems like someone might look for this in a way they wouldn't look for a portrait, perhaps. They would.
Sure.
So it'd be nice if people could still, it's accessible, it's just in a different location. It'd be nice if we.
I think we could make a cataloging note. Sure, there's a note somewhere in the 900 lines of cataloging.
The market is checked out.
Well, we went through, the market is checked out.
But
yeah.
You can still go look at it.
Yeah, I'll talk to,
Okay.
head of technical services. I'm almost positive we could, put a notation somewhere on display currently,
Yeah.
It was Mr. Russell's assessment that it didn't have the same monetary value.
Yeah.
Who's kind of it? But yeah, there's like, it's worth whatever somebody would pay for it, right?
True.
You saw Harvard University bought the Magna Carta for 25.
Yes. I do, I mean, it doesn't, the transportation and the displaying of it. I was told, it's not going to be sitting out on a table, that it would be, for people to touch. That it would be, behind some protective. Or at least, away from the ability of people to touch it. The portrait does have more monetary value. Than a general charter of an organization. Like I said, he acknowledges that there's historical and intrinsic value to it, but not monetary.
And so there would be some insurance associated with it, just not the large amount that.
Right, given the monetary value of the Tracy portrait, the city did require that the city be named as an insured for that. This item, its monetary value does not rise to that of the Nathaniel Tracy portrait, according to the assessment of Mr. Russell.
I don't know if you can answer this question, Kevin, but do we get requests from visitors to the archives to view this document?
Usually the ones that have requested it are usually the members of that DIR chapter.
But does that happen often? Is the kind of thing that like it's there, we have it, but nobody actually looks to see it, and so we wouldn't notice it if there was at the.
I can't speak to the number of times in which the charter is accessed. I will say that the members of that chapter, especially the head of the DAR chapter, did approach James Russell to have him access. So it's the daughters, it's the members of the Brigadier General James Bridget chapter that are actually asking for the item to be put on display.
Probably was bad.
Yes. So they put their trust in James Russell to then ask us.
Tangentially, has the Tracy portrait already been moved?
Not yet,
Okay.
that is beginning of June. But I have all the necessary documents in place, and Ethan Manning has approved the loan documentation as well as the insurance documentation.
And this transport happened at the same time.
If approved, I'm sure we could probably arrange that they would go at the same time.
Well, I moved to approve that. Transfer.
Second,
Are you in favor? Anybody opposed? Okay.
Right, all right, I will alert James Russell that the library board has approved the loan of the charter.
And then we all got sent a schedule for next year, the library directors meetings. I don't know if you want to any comment on those. So.
There was just one that I wanted the board just to consider. February 20, the original date would have been February 18th. And that is in the middle of school vacation week. And so I'm proposing that the board move it to the following week so that it doesn't conflict with that. So if there are members of the board who have children, they could travel if they wish.
So that'll be February 25 then.
Correct.
Comments about the meeting schedule?
We don't vote out on this, do we? We don't need to vote on this, do we?
No. I mean,
Okay.
just a general,
Looks good.
as long as I bring this, in case there are any questions,
Oh, good.
comments or concerns. All right, then this will be the schedule for next year's meetings.
Do we have any communications, Jerry?
There were no communications brought forth to the board for discussion.
Your report items.
Yes, okay, all right. Okay, the first section I'd like to talk to you about is the development of the FY 26 budget. The library portion of the mayor's proposed budget is was amended from what my original proposal was, but this is what the mayor has brought forth to city council. The library portion is 1,615,623. What that does reflect is there is now a permanent loss of 1.6 full-time equivalents, which is essentially 2 staff members, a full-time staff position and a part-time staff position, a total of about 55 work hours that that I will discuss in the personnel section,
Good.
how we're mitigating that.
What does permanent mean?
Means since they are not budgeted, they do not exist anymore. We have to essentially request to have them back. But there's a difference between frozen and unbudgeted. I had advocated that they be frozen. Because if they're frozen, the money that would have been spent on those positions would have rolled over into what's commonly known as salary reserve. And if the financial economic situation was a little more amenable in FY 27, we could have potentially filled them. When they're unbudgeted, it means they're cut. They do not exist anymore. We have to advocate to get them back, which unfortunately is usually a lot harder to do. But as I was told in the meeting, city council wants the money FY 26, they don't want it saved for FY 27. So that essentially that's why they're being cut and not frozen. What I just want to alleviate any fears with regard to certification or the Massachusetts Board of Library Commissioners. The 1,615,000 is above Newburyport's municipal allocation requirement. It's above it by about $60,000 or $70,000. So, and in my working with Ethan Manning, the library's material expenditure requirement of 13% of the overall budget has been recalculated and is being met by this new amount. So any questions regarding that?
Sorry, just one thing. The personnel was, it was a position that was open, that is.
Yes, through attrition, yes,
Wasn't, okay,
yes.
thank you.
Next steps, we'll have my budget workshop with the Budget and Finance Subcommittee of City Council on June 15th. Just as a reminder, City Council can only approve to remove money, they cannot approve to add money. So any changes that City Council makes to the library budget would be a removal of, not an addition to. Then once, about 2 weeks following, on the 18th of June, which is why we schedule our meeting, is the City Council public hearing on the budget. And that's the meeting where the entire budget, the entire City Council then goes through the budget and determines and vote on any cuts they want to make to any particular department's budget request. So by the end of the evening on June 15th, I'll have a more firm number as to what the library will be spending next year. Any questions or?
Any support from the board to help advocate for funding for staff, or doesn't work that way?
The board can advocate for the budget as the mayor has proposed. And that would be wonderful if you could advocate for the budget as proposed. Later, if the board could help to advocate for getting those positions back. But that unfortunately is not something that can be done at this point.
How mechanically would that be done?
The mechanic, well, when I propose to the mayor and it goes before city council, as citizens, you can address city council, and, say that you would, give your support to the addition of, that's unfortunately, really the only thing that you can do as a board is advocate that it would definitely enhance the library's ability to meet the needs of the citizens.
We also as a board, submit a letter.
I'm sure that would also throw some weight as well. But at this point, with regards to the 1.6 full-time equivalents, that would be something that we would discuss during the creation of the FY27 budget. Looking to add back positions if the economic climate would support that.
Mhm.
Yes, Kristen.
I think just to comment on it, I would encourage everyone to release the budget. It is on our city website. It's the mayor's budget, obviously, as Kevin mentioned. We will go through the hearing process. Just some overline, because I talked to Kevin and Jessica, that it's obviously a top tier of obviously 1.6. I don't want to mitigate the impact that we'll have on our staff. But across the board of the city, we had a 15% increase health insurance this year. For all our city employees, so this year, the overall budget is increasing by 3.6% roughly. One with. So how is that, say this right? 1.8 would be the increase if we didn't have the health insurance increase. Health insurance was almost $1.5 million our increase this year. So there's just been some structural changes that are impacting the entire city. So one of the policies that has happened across, not just library, but other departments as well, is vacant positions, kind of made it through attrition. We are fortunate where there haven't been any layoffs, and I think we're really proud of that at the moment. But we also understand that there's going to be some, work with each department to make sure that they're able to move forward and provide the services to the city. So appreciate the support, and as Kip said, any mention and support for this budget moving forward. It gives us helpful so we know how we got the city. And I was just saying, it has to go through the council, as Kevin mentioned, the council should only cut. They can't add. So we are also, I would say, personally optimistic that the council will see that this is a very responsible, balanced budget, given since I just explained, did everything we could to keep this budget responsible for our taxpayers, given that we had a $1.5 million drop of health insurance. Without that, very strong position this year. So hopefully we're working with the council and see how this budget is. But just wanted to share that. Thank you.
Any other questions or comments on the FY26 budget?
Is there, Darren?
Sure. Are there any questions regarding the library statistics that I sent to you?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I may have missed before, but I enjoyed seeing the program and all the attendance on that. And I think that's, you probably said it before, first time I looked through it on the line, and it's great. Programming there is fantastic.
Yeah.
But programming there is nice.
Thank you.
Personnel?
Okay, well, unless I'll just submit it as transmitted. Okay. Personnel, okay, as I mentioned, section of the budget, we are looking at ways of mitigating, lessening the impact of the loss of 1.6 full-time equivalents. There are a couple of things that we are looking to implement, and some things that we are currently moving through the process. First is we are pursuing change in library operating hours with the union. The library, whenever, and I will be completely transparent, the change that I am requesting the union to make is the least impactful change to the fewest number of library patrons. One thing I've learned is that you don't make predatory cuts because to make people feel, because then it only comes back to, so the changes that I'm making or requesting are to change the evenings, the hours Monday through Thursday from 9 to 9 to 9 to 8. There are a couple of reasons why this is beneficial not only to staff but as well as to patrons. For staff, there are a number of reasons. First of all, the library's closing an hour earlier. They're able to go home an hour earlier. They have an opportunity to be better prepared for the next day. Having an opportunity to get an extra hour of sleep. Potentially. Again, that speaks to supporting resiliency of the staff. in addition to helping to maintain the resiliency of the staff, if we were to close at 8 p.m., the staff would come in at noon instead of 1 p.m. The number of hours where there are more staff in the building is now would be 5 instead of 4. What Jessica and I identified as we were looking at various ways to kind of quantify the impact of this loss is we actually looked at the patron to staff ratio. We're able to do that with the door counter. We can look at different hours of the day. And right now we have been without that 1.6 those 2 staff members for a couple of months now. So we're able to see the impact of desk coverage. And we noticed that at lunchtimes, specifically because people needed to go to lunch, at noon and 1, between the hours of 12 and 2, the patron to staff ratio jumps from 7 or 8 to 1 to 15 to 1. And so by adjusting the time in which the staff come in, we restore that ratio closer to what the ratio is between 9 and noon and 2 and 5. And the number of patrons that come in between 8 and 9 at night is much less.
Can you quantify that at all?
Let's see. Actually, I did bring that with me.
You want the actual numbers? It's
Well,
about 5 or 6.
I have your.
Yeah.
Yes. Okay, typically, this was looking at the month of March. Let's see, oh, sorry, I have staff in my hour, but I don't have,
It's 5 or 6.
oh, thank you.
5 or 6.
Patrons per staff member.
And we're not convinced that it's just patrons because sometimes some of our maintenance employees will come in that way.
So
So it might even be lower.
That's the ratio or the number?
That's the number of patrons coming in the building,
Just the number of patrons.
Yeah.
The ratio. is-
possibly including maintenance.
Okay.
I have a number of concerns. One is that, I mean, I'm sure you thought of this, but what is our responsibility to the consortium about hours? Is this dipping into an excess we already have? It's not a problem.
Yeah.
The other thing is, I really, if we say we're not important enough to be open, it's not a great PR. Like, either we're important and we should be open, or we're not important and what are we doing? I get a little freaked out about like, oh,
Yeah.
this isn't important, we'll just close down and maybe that's the practical thing to do and I should just be a good girl. But I just feel like there's been this huge battle and upset about the importance of this staff and their professionalism. And now we're like, oh, actually, we don't have enough staff and we're closing. It seems a little weird to me.
Yeah, if I could explain a little bit further, what we're also trying to accomplish by this is we're already experiencing, are you familiar with the concept of cascading failure?
No.
Okay, let me briefly try to explain cascading failure. We have a root task that has to be done. Shelving. We have a deficit of between 10 and 15 hours per week because of the loss of these 2 people. That's above the number of hours that we get from current staff and volunteers. In order to get that shelving done, we have to pull somebody from something else. And if we're at noontime, we're pulling people, or we're only having one person on a, we might only have like one person at a service desk in order to cover lunch. So, yes, and you will hear staff members say, but we can do that. Sure. But how does that impact your resiliency? How does that impact your ability to really serve those patrons well?
Mhm.
So what we're trying to do is to, and I'm gonna say, just because we say that we're closing at 8 o'clock, if the economic conditions improve, we can always go back.
Okay.
It's not just because, and what some of the staff were like, we need to help people understand that we have budget cuts. Well, yes, but you want to do it in a way in which it doesn't impact so many people that, because unfortunately, the majority of the folks are going to go elsewhere. They're not going to march en masse to city council and say, give the library money for 1.6 employees. They're going to go, I'm going to go to Newbury, I'm going to go to Salisbury, Amesbury. If the service here starts to diminish. So it's wonderful to think that we could, if the library had political capital to expend, we don't.
Do other libraries, let's stay up until 9, in Massachusetts, what's
Some of the larger libraries do. I know a lot of the other libraries, the library I worked at last, they were open at 8. We moved it down to 7. I know Topsfield used to be open till 9, they moved it back to 8. Or actually 7 o'clock as well.
What is Salisbury?
I'd have to check, I'd have to do a survey of the hours, but
standard?
no, there is no standard.
There are
8 o'clock.
massive many people out there at 8 o'clock at night doing stuff that hanging around the 9 o'clock on something.
Wherever.
Well,
That's true. Yeah.
I have to do homework.
But what's the role of the volunteers? Like if there were more volunteers,
Yeah.
that would alleviate the problem.
I mean,
Well,
that's
the-
exactly.
Focus
The
on-
problem, okay, but the problem with, it's not just adding volunteers to do shelving, is that the nature of a volunteer is that they are not required to be here. So we get about 60 to 70% of their availability. So in order to get 15 hours dedicated each week, we'd have to get another 10 to 15 volunteers.
The management of that would
And
be-
that, yeah,
And also, I just want to add
Yeah.
that it's not just shelving. He used shelving sort of as an example. Programming is being impacted, cataloging is impacted, a whole bunch of other tasks, desk coverage itself. Those are not tasks that can be alleviated by shelving.
Well, what a bummer.
so,
It's a bummer.
yeah, so, but again, I'm just proposing this.
Yeah,
It has to go forward through union. There are other
Okay.
things that we're doing to mitigate that I kind of want to get, so you understand what we're doing. So that's something that the union has to approve because the hours are specifically stated in the contract. But I've explained that this, and the concern about, will it always be now 9 to 8? And the answer was no, because any decision can always be reassessed and reevaluated based on a change of circumstances. So especially if we were able to get back the 1.6 FTE, I'd be like, yeah, let's go to the union and see it. But of course, the part like, hey, we're used to going home at 8 o'clock. But yeah,
yeah.
but I mean, it's not something that we can't go back to. It's just, this is part of the reality of the loss of staff. Is, yeah,
Sorry, no, I was just wondering if there's other ways you've explored in addition to this idea.
I. There are other ways that we're working to mitigate the loss.
Yeah.
But this was one that really has. We see a numerical change in the patrons to staff ratio if we have more people in the building. We see more staff have the ability to have someone at the service desk with them. Yes, staff members say, yes, I can be at the desk by myself. Yes, I can do that. But knowing that you have someone there with you, if you need to answer a phone call, if you need to go upstairs to grab a book, if you don't have that person with you, what are you going, the level of service that we've been providing now all of a sudden is the phone call doesn't get answered because they're in the middle of working with a patron, or someone's now, we're now getting a queue because this is the busiest time of the day, is the 12 to 2 hours. So what we're trying to do is make sure that, yes, staff can do the function. They can, they'll be the first ones that I'll do it. But day after day after day of being the only one or only person at a desk without support does have an impact on resiliency. And so I'm trying to maintain resiliency in the staff by having there be support. That doesn't even talk about the ability of staff to be able to do ordering, program planning, to be able to do outreach. To prepare to do outreach, because the more that they're told to do, pulled from upstairs to be at the circulation desk, so someone can go shelving. That's what was that person doing? They were doing cataloging, they were doing program preparation, they were doing book ordering. They could have been the second person at the reference desk.
We are also reorganizing how we do our programs so that we're a little more balanced. So yes, there are other methods that we are exploring to make sure that we're as efficient as possible.
So,
Is there any concern about employees losing 5 hours of work a week? I mean, like, they're gonna be, whatever their hourly pay is.
no, that will remain the same.
Oh, it will, okay.
Yes, no, this is not ever a cut in someone's hours.
Right.
That's why by reducing it from 9 to 8, it brings them in earlier, which means that there are more people in the building at noon rather than at 1.
That's right, so it's 9, right now it's 8 to 8, and it would be going to 9 to 8? Sorry.
It's 9 to 9,
9 to 9.
and if approved by the union, it would go Monday through Thursday, 9 in the morning till 8 at night.
So an hour less a day.
Yeah.
That would impact people's pay.
No,
It's
No.
35 hours no matter what.
yeah,
They're
yeah,
coming in at 12. so
yeah,
that's coming in.
exactly,
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Okay. I understand.
It's late.
Okay.
yeah.
And then for the record, Amesbury is only open till 8, 3 days a week, and Salisbury only until 2 days a week, no days until 9.
Those are not our competitors.
No,
But it's good to know.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, like Haverhill, Andover, the big guys, we're big guys, we should act like a big guy.
we don't have the staff like a big guy.
Okay, all right, okay.
Believe me, I don't like the idea of cutting hours. And again, this is just a proposal. This is just one of the ways that we're trying to. But I'm letting you know so that, you know. Other ways that we're working to mitigate this loss is, we've modified the weekend schedule. We need 7 people in the building. on Saturdays to run the library efficiently and effectively. So that we have enough people to make sure that people get their lunches, their breaks, that, you know, that we can function if someone calls in sick. And we were not having that. We were not getting that. We were already having, and cascading from June is an example of what we're trying to fix. You know, so what we did is, we kept the 3-week staff rotation. Jessica and I have been added to that. We're not on the same weekend. We can't be because there needs to be someone from administration here on Fridays. So either Jessica or I will be here on Fridays, and then we worked it out so that between a couple people working every other, and at the addition of Jessica and myself, we get a consistent 7 people for each Saturday. And that will keep our Saturday hours open from 9 AM to 5. Saturday is one of our busiest days. We really need to make sure that we're open and that we have enough staff to do that. So we've been able to keep that schedule that the staff are used to, with just the addition, with a few tweaks. And Jessica and I guess we did a million ways to Sunday to come up with this Saturday schedule that the staff are, you know, kept to every third. The other thing that we've done already is we modified the evening schedule. We had to do this a couple months ago, but this has helped to mitigate it. We did a survey of staff to see if anyone would be willing to work more than one night. And we had enough staff who were willing to work more than one night, so that we can have at least 5 staff members in the building. The minimum I feel safe running this building is with 4 staff members. We have tonight, right now, we have 4. And but Jessica and I are in the building technically, so, so we've got it so that every night, Monday through Thursday, we will have 5 staff members. And that will make sure the safety of both the staff as well as the patrons. Because having less than 4 people manage a 38,000 square foot space is just, it's not sustainable. So we've worked on that already. The last thing that we're doing, which is also, it's kind of important. We're working on staff focusing on priorities in their program of service areas. What programs are your priorities? What tasks are your priorities? As well as working together in the planning of programs so that you don't have 5 programs going on in the same day or at the same time. We can do about 2, maybe 3 programs at the same time. But there have been days where there have been 4 or 5. We can't sustain that anymore. So it's not that we're asking them to stop programming, we're asking them to be a little bit more intelligent about planning them and collaborating with other departments so that they know how many programs and when they're being planned, so that we spread them out a little bit more. So that will help as well. So this has been a process that some things that we've been working on for the past few months. some things we've been working on feverishly for the past couple of weeks. We're hoping that over the long run, these will enable us to still provide the same level of service that we've been providing in the past into the future. So,
I'll think a lot about one too.
Yeah.
yeah, Jessica and I, we really work well as a team, and, you know, whenever possible, we're getting feedback from staff and integrating it and trying to come up with things that, ways in which we can do it that really is meaningful, you know, for them and for us, so that we can have a meaningful interaction with.
That sounds good.
It's patron focused.
Yeah,
So building and grounds, elevator's working out.
yes, and that's all I had to say.
Good. Moving on.
Outreach and community partners, any questions?
Good night, through you, Madam Chair. Personnel.
No, yes.
Just one update, I think it would be good to know for the board. We are having a professional development citywide this coming month, so we've organized meeting on June 4th. It's on communication and public service. So it's for all, well, not, sadly won't be able to reach all city employees, but we're hoping to get to probably like 150 employees, including some library staff. I'm just handling crisis, handling communications and conflict. So this is just again our citywide effort to just help teams find ways to better communicate with themselves, so improve inter-team dynamics, and then also the communications with patrons as well. Part of this is, you know, from our diversity, equity, and inclusion task force. We did a survey with city employees this past January, sorry. And this was an area that we found was really important. So we're working with a consulting company. It's sort of like a baseline to try to help build perspectives and communication skills. So that way, you know, we can think about other perspectives of the patrons and their colleagues. So we just hope it's a step in the right direction. I think many of our employees already are doing a great job. This is kind of just a reinforcement. And then also keep in mind, especially that maybe the climate that we're living in now, of just remember to, you know, have empathy and perspective when you're engaging with either your colleague or your patron. So, or working with Kevin and Jessica, I think we'll actually be hosting it. Yep. Sorry.
Programming, any questions or?
Just one quick question, all these different libraries that are on there in the program, you're cooperating with,
Mhm.
what does that mean? Is that like a Zoom conference or?
Yes,
Yeah. Do you find that on the library website?
essentially, you go through the calendar, and there's generally a Zoom link. Or you register for the program and you get a Zoom link.
Thanks.
Right, I will submit the rest as submitted.
For the calendar, how did the voting go?
I unfortunately was on jury duty that day, so I don't have any anecdotal data on how busy it was.
But it seemed to go well.
Oh, yeah, the city, the clerk's office had a well-oiled machine, and the DPS, they come in, they set up. It happens, and then it's like the next day, it's like it never happened.
Steady.
Yeah.
It was steady.
Oh, it's steady, okay,
That was for the recent rec club.
yes,
Mhm.
This board got roughly, this is Ward 2, I think got roughly a little over 600 votes, which
Yeah.
is almost on pace for a normal municipal election period.
Yes.
there aren't any other questions? Submit the calendar section as transmitted, and I have nothing further.
So, making a motion to adjourn,
So,
anybody? Everybody in favor?
Oh, we need a second,
second.
Good.
Christian second.
Anybody opposed?
The H's have it.
No, I said, no, second. Okay,
We're good.
Okay.
done.
Let me end it. Hold on.